good morning, and thanks again for being here. We are starting a new series, and so called Uncomfortable. Hope you're super excited about that. Probably super glad you came to church, right, on this series. But I just want to give you a snapshot real quick before I get started, just of what life is like in the Ice house on like Monday through Friday or whatever. It's in our house. And so I don't know if this is like you, but hopefully maybe you can relate to some of this. But every morning we get up, we go to work, right? Like Cheryl goes to work, I go to work. Morgan gets up, goes to work. Caden sleeps until noon. And then, no, he'll actually go to work. He'll go to school or whatever too. But we go and we do our thing just like all of you will do tomorrow morning. And we'll get up and we'll go do our thing. And then sometime in the afternoon, after we get off work around 4 or 5 or so, our family will just go to the gym. Like we go to the gym. Like I'll go to the gym. Cheryl and Morgan go to EPOC. EPOC is like this exercise class at our gym. If you haven't been, then apparently you're not cool because I'm not going either. But, so they'll go to EPOC and then whatever. And then I was actually just kind of disappointed this week because somebody invited me to a marathon group. And I'm like, yeah, that ain't happening. Like, it was like a Facebook group. It was like some kind of runners group. I'm like, I'm honored that you think that of me, but I'll join the group and cheer you on. But anyway, we'll go to the gym and then we'll come home and then we will, about 6 o'clock, I'll stand in the pantry and I'll stand in front of the refrigerator and just kind of look, and then we all have that discussion about, hey, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. What are we going to cook for dinner? Like, I don't know. And then so we have that discussion for about 30 minutes, and then we land on like a bowl of cereal, some wheat thins, a handful of chips, a hot dog, and a slice of ham, and call that supper. Like, I don't know how dinner works at your house, but that's kind of how it works. We just eat a bunch of junk, or sometimes we'll fix a meal or whatever. But then we clean up this giant mess that we've made in the kitchen, and then at some point in time, we will resign to the parlor, and we'll go to the living room and sit in, and everybody has a spot. Like, I don't know, does that work in your house? Like, everybody's got a spot, right? Like, Cheryl always gets the couch. I don't know why. She didn't call it. But it's just like a known fact that Cheryl gets the couch and she gets a blanket and Morgan will get the other couch or something. And then we have these 2 chairs that are really super uncomfortable and nobody wants to sit in, and that's usually what I get. And so we'll sit in the chair and then it will settle in for, about 8 o'clock or whatever, turn TV on and just kind of watch some TV and everybody gets super comfortable. And then just about that moment, like we have, because my kids are they can't say no to dogs, we have like 3 dogs in our house. And so they are bell trained. Everybody know what that is? Like we have a bell on the door, and when the dogs need to go outside, they ring the bell. They're smart that way, that's the only way they're smart. So they'll ring, so about 8 o'clock, and there's this phenomenon that happens in our house around 8 o'clock when everybody gets in the couch. Every single other person in my family becomes deaf. Like nobody hears the bell ringing. Like the dogs are ringing the bell incessantly, and everyone in my house is deaf. Like I feel like the kid in Polar Express. I'm the only one that still hears the bell ring, Like, do you hear the bell? Like, I'm like the only kid that hears the bell ring. So I'm like, nobody hears that? Like, nobody going to get up? No, it's like, okay, let me get up. So I'll get up, and I let the dogs out, and I let the stupid dogs out that I didn't want in the first place, of course. And so I let the dogs out, and then a few minutes later, like our middle dog, the one we got second, which it's always the middle child is you ever notice? So our stupid middle dog, she can open the front door. So like a few minutes later, we hear the bell. I hear the bell ring again, but it's Daisy coming in and letting all of her friends in. So she lets all the other dogs in. They're muddy. They're just walking around. The door's standing wide open, blowing air. And I'm like, oh, nobody going to get that? Oh, no, but everybody's deaf. Everybody's just like, Cheryl's on. She's by this time, Cheryl's asleep, couch, 8:30. Nobody gets the dog, and then so I get up again, and like I move and whatever, and everybody's just super comfortable. And then a few minutes later, Daisy brings her dog bowl into the living room, and like nobody gonna feed the dog. Nobody fed the dogs today, so I just get to take care of all these stupid dogs that I didn't want. But while my whole family is just lounged with their blankets and they're super comfortable. Now, I tell you all that because in America, I think as Americans and a people, we are a culture of comfort. Like, we love to be comfortable. We love to sit on the couch. We don't want any interruptions. We don't want anything to mess up our comfort. We settle in, we watch some TV, and if you've been to church for a minute, you probably know where I'm headed with this. But America is this culture of comfort. We avoid things that make us uncomfortable. In fact, we remember those things, those situations, those people, those circumstances, those things in our life that have put us, and some of you can probably remember, I want you to remember some of the most uncomfortable things you've had in your life. I want you to remember that, because you probably have that, and you probably think, yeah, I know, like I ate crab cakes once in Gatlinburg and I threw up for 2 days. I remember that uncomfort. Like, I haven't eaten a crab cake since. So we remember those things, right? Like whatever makes us uncomfortable or puts us in an awkward or stressful or painful situation, we are naturally bent to avoid that. And we will do everything in our power to avoid that discomfort in our lives. It's just how we're wired. We do, and billions of dollars are spent and earned on creating comfort, right? Like, everything is about comfort. Like, some of you watching online are watching because it's more comfortable at home and watch on your computer. And we love that. We're glad that you're here. But everything in our life is wired around comfort. Like, you think about, if you think about cars, for example, like when I do this motion, some of you young people have no idea what this is. Some of the old people remember, like, this is how we rode down windows back in the day, right? Like, and then cars got electric windows, and it was just like push a button, and you went up and down. It was late, and I got in trouble for that for my dad, And then we had power locks, and then somebody said, "Oh, power locks. How about power steering? Okay, cool. How about power windshield? How about power lights? Yes, that's better. It makes it more. How about? Oh, I got it. How about heated seats? Yes. How about cooled seats? Yes, that's even better. How about a heated steering wheel? Some of you, like, everything in our society is wired and geared to make us more comfortable. And we love it. We relish it. And so I'm super excited about this series that I'm started today called Uncomfortable. It's loosely based on a book that I've been reading about from Brett McMacken. He wrote a book called Uncomfortable, great book. But I've been reading, and it's really kind of pushed me in this direction. But here's a question for you, and I just want you to be incredibly honest with yourself. And because all of you are here at church, and some of you are watching church and have been part of this place for a while, here's a question I want you to answer within yourself. In your mind, and if you can make a list and you could paint a perfect picture, and you were all artists, in your mind, what makes the perfect church? What is that? What is your dream church? Now, I know some of you are going like, well, it's here. Yeah, shut up. It's not. Like, right? Like, what is your dream church? What is the perfect church? I don't know what that is. And I want you to think about specifically, when you think about that, what is it that comes to mind first for you? What is it that makes church perfect for you? Is it the building? Is it the facility? Is it the lights? Is it the ministries that we provide? Is it kids, youth? Is it our, is it theology? Is it membership? Is it Sunday morning service? Is it discipleship? Is it our online presence? Is it mission work? Is it our Facebook presence? Is it our outreach? Is it our community? Is it our hospitality? Is it our worship music? Is it parking, coffee? Apparently donuts are working because we brought back the donuts and now people are coming back. So that's probably on some of your list. I don't know. The donuts are really cool. But what is it that makes church perfect for you? What is it? I don't know what that is. But I do want to let you know this. If you're here for the first time, if you're watching us for the first time, or maybe you've been here for a few minutes or 10 seconds, and let me just tell you, if you think this is it, like you're sadly mistaken. Because this is not the perfect church. And to my knowledge, I'm not sure that there's one that exists. If you know of one, let me know, and I'll go to it, and then it won't be so perfect anymore. But honestly, and I'm just being, this message kind of wrecked me a little bit this week and kind of has pushed me in a different direction. And I just being really, really super transparent as your pastor. I'm going to say something that's going to be like, sometimes I get really, really bored with church. Anybody else? Like with this thing that we call church, like what we're doing right now. Sometimes I kind of get bored with it because I think sometimes it becomes more about me. oh, is this going to be a good message? Did this work out? Is this going to come across okay? Is this going to get the message? And I worry about this, and did people like it? And, and I feel like sometimes I'm preaching a message on the same thing over and over and over and over. Really, when you're a pastor and preaching a message, it's like, I heard somebody say this week that it's like doing a book report every week on the same book. It's still there. So sometimes, and I've been in church a lot, and sometimes it's okay to say that here. Like sometimes I get bored with church. I get bored with what we're doing here. Like, what are we doing? And here's the thing. I've taught you that the church is not this place. It's not this building. It's not this address. It's really all of you and me together. We are what the church is. There was a word for it. Does anybody remember? Ecclesia, right? Like an ecclesia. It's a gathering of people. That's what God's dream of the church was meant to be. It was this community of believers that believed Jesus was the Son of God, that he rose from the dead to save us from our sin, and that he put us on a mission, and collectively, as a group, we're all headed in the same direction. That's what God's dream of the church was supposed to be. And so when I say I'm bored with the church, I'm really just saying I'm bored with all of y'all. No, I'm just kidding. Not at all. I get bored with the routine of what we do and call it church and feel good about it. And so due to our natural bend toward comfort, we unconsciously, as people, become consumers. We are naturally consumers. Due to, and it's no fault of our own, we're just bent that way. It's society has taught us to do that. We live in America. We love being comfortable. It feels better. And we begin to look out for what's important for us and what's important for me and what I get out of it. And I know there's a certain element of that to church. That's why you come to be fed, and we all do that. We all need to be fed. I understand that. But how it meets our needs, and I'm guilty of that as well. And we love, here's the thing, I don't know what that picture was of you when I asked you what your perfect church is or what that perfect church would look like. We love our own picture of church, don't we? We love that version, our dream church. We love our own version of the dream church and dream community. The fact is that anything short, here's the thing, but here's what happens is, we love that version, but the fact is, and this is the cold hard fact, and this is the uncomfortable truth, that anything short of what God's dream is for the church can do more harm than good. Something happens that messes with our dream, right? And then we get sideways with somebody else. We quarrel. We get critical. We disconnect from one another. This cancel culture that we're in, something happens, somebody says something to us, somebody does something, I don't know, we've all had a bad experience at church, right? We're not perfect. Here's the important piece. If we love, whatever your dream is of church, if we love our dream more than God's dream, then it can derail the mission that Jesus set us on to spread the good news of the gospel and tell other people about Jesus. That's really good. I'm going to read it again real quick for you. If we love our dream more than God's dream, it can derail the mission that Jesus has set us on to spread the good news and the gospel to people who are far from God. Dietrich Bonhoeffer said it this way. This is really good. It's really kind of too deep for me, but I love his quote. Those who love their dream of a Christian community more than they love the Christian community itself. In other words, if you love your dream of church more than you love people and the community of Jesus, if we love our dream of Christian community more than we love the Christian community itself, become destroyers of that Christian community, even though their personal intentions may have been ever so honest and earnest and sacrificial. Despite the fact that we can be so earnest and sacrificial, if we love the dream of our church more than we love the community and church and people, then it can be detrimental. And you see it all the time. People get bent out of shape over goofy stuff. We all want our dream, but sometimes what we want is not what we need. Sometimes we pray prayers, we pray stuff that are really, if you think about your prayer life, and I've done this myself, a lot of my prayers often just include my comfort. God, help me with this, help me with this, help me get over this, help me with that financial, help me with this, help me, whatever that is. Most of our prayers sometimes tend to be centered around ourselves. We think we know what we need, and we may be asking and praying for something that we need, but God knows differently. Getting what we need versus what we want may not seem fun, but in the long run, it's better for us. Like sometimes we pray a prayer, and then God says, you know what, that's not really what you need. I want you to have this. And we can't see that because we're so focused on the here and now, and we live in the present, and we're all focused about being our comfort. Let me give you an example of this. There's a guy, and we read about in Acts chapter 3, verse 6, verse 8. Acts chapter 3, verse 6 through 8. If you look at it, you've probably read this before, but it's just some dude. We don't know his name. All we know is that he's lame. He can't get up and walk. He's crippled. And in the first century, when you're wired that way, or when you're in that position, it's bad because you don't have anybody to take care for you. You weren't getting some kind of disability check or anything like this. You pretty much had to figure out how to eke out life by yourself. And so this guy was lame. He was crippled. He must have had a couple friends that would pick him up and carry him every day and lay him at the gate of the city, and then he would sit and panhandle from the gate of the city, and that was really how he made his living. So he was thinking, okay, today I'm going to get up, I'm going to go sit at the gate, I'm going to panhandle, and hopefully somebody will give me some money, and then if I have some money, I can eat and survive another day. That was his existence. And so we read about this guy in the third chapter of Acts, and in verse 2, here's what it says. Now a man who was lame from birth was being carried to the temple gate. He must have had a couple friends that cared enough about him to pick him up and carry him to the temple gate and leave him there. Hey, good luck. I don't know what that looks like. But anyway, carried him to the temple gate. Temple gate called Beautiful, where he was put every day to beg from those going into the temple courts. When he saw Peter and John about to enter, he asked them for money, specifically. This guy said, hey, man, can you spare some change? We all run into those guys, in St. Louis or Chicago. Or, hey, can you spare some change? Can you got a couple bucks? Can you help me out? Whatever. And Peter, Scripture says, Peter looked straight at him, as did John. Then Peter said, look at us. Hey, he's like, hey, buddy, look at me. Right here. I need you to look at me. He looked at him. He said, so the man gave them his attention, expecting to get something from them. In other words, this dude was expecting, he saw Peter and John coming. He's like, hey, can you spare some change? Give me a buck. Give me a dollar. Can you help me make a living or whatever? Can you spare some change? Whatever. And he saw these guys coming. In his mind, he's thinking, okay, here's my meal ticket for today. Because this is what he was about. It was just about getting through today. It's about getting what he needed right now. Then Peter said, silver or gold I do not have, but what I give you in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, walk. Boom. Taking him by the right hand, he helped him up, and instantly the man's feet and ankles became strong. He jumped to his feet and began to walk. Then he went with them into the temple courts, walking and jumping and praising God. See, this guy thought he needed money, but God said, no, what you really need is you need to walk. You need something different than what you think you need. And I've got it for you. Sometimes we need something different than we think we need. And here's the thing. It's not about us. It's not about me, and I haven't said that in a while, but it's not about what I want or what you want. It's about what we need from God and what we need Him to do in our life and how He needs to push us into a little bit of the uncomfortable. And as I was thinking about this message all week, my goal is like, okay, what is the one thing? What's the takeaway? Like what to walk away with this morning? And it's quite simply this. The goal of this message series is to move us from being comfortable consumers to uncomfortable contributors that are growing consistently in our Christ-likeness. That we move from just being a consumer and sitting in here every Sunday morning and calling this self-church and feeling good about that we went to church, and move it into doing something that is tangible and something that is meaningful and something that makes us a little bit more like Christ. That's my goal. To move us past what we think we need and accept what Jesus has for us. Now, all of us, every single one of us in here, that if you call yourself a believer or you call yourself a follower of Jesus Christ, that's the goal, is to move us from being just a consumer and sitting on there and going, okay, feed me, and to figuring out what is it that God wants to do in my life and where does he want to push me into the uncomfortable. What would happen, I just want you to think for a second, what would happen if we allowed God to give us what we need versus what we want? To run toward the uncomfortable, to set aside our wants and accept what we need, whatever that is, till so dramatic in our lives that it changes us forever. To become more comfortable, in order to do that, if we want that, if you want that in your life, if you're stagnant, some of us have just gotten really, really comfortable. You're not even hearing the bell ring anymore. And God is ringing the bell going, hey, I need help here. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. If we're going to be that kind of people, and if you want to grow, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but if you want to move to a different level in your walk with Christ, we have to get to the place where we get comfortable with the uncomfortable. I mean, like really comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think at some point in time, we've all felt that, right? We have felt God moving us in that direction, and it feels really scary and it feels dangerous, and everything in your head's like, no, you're good. Just stay where you're at. Just stay where you're at. You're fine. Everything in our head is telling us, don't do that. And yet we feel this tug of God in our heart saying, I really want you to do that. I really want you to move. I really want you to take that step. I want you to move. I want you to move in this direction. And what typically happens is we talk ourselves down from that. And I want to give you an example. So this morning, this happened to me this morning, and so I've been working on this, right? It's not the first time I've heard this message this week. But so I'm driving to church thinking about the message, praying that God will use it. And so as I'm driving to church this morning, I'm coming up 37 here, almost right in front of Chuck's place. And I see this girl walking her dog. I see her a lot, actually, on Sunday morning. I don't know who she is. Young girl walking her dog. South, it's on the side of the road. It's kind of sloppy and messy and puddly, and I didn't want to splash her, so there wasn't anybody in the other lane. And so I moved over to the left lane to give her, a wide berth, and she appreciated it because we made some kind of awkward eye contact, and she gave me the hey, and I'm like, hey, what's up? No, I got you. We had that kind of, I felt like we connected, And so I just went on and didn't think much about it. And I'm thinking about this message, thinking about the uncomfortable and thinking about what it means to be uncomfortable. And I pulled into the driveway, and I usually park over there in front of the office. And I parked over there in front of the office, and I usually listen to my music a little bit and pray that God will use this message. And so I'm just sitting there thinking it, and all I hear is this bell ringing. Stupid bell. I hear this bell ringing, and it's God's voice going, hey, you know what? Talking about uncomfortable. Why don't you go back and invite that girl to church? I'm like, are you kidding? And I'm like, no. I'm like, I looked at my watch. It was 8:30. I'm like, I got to be in there. And I'm like, I'll catch her next time, that type of thing. And I opened the door and stepped a foot out. And then I got back in and shut the door of my truck. And I'm like, dang it. And so I drive back, I leave the parking lot, and I go south. And so the whole time I'm driving south now on 37, looking for this girl and her dog, wondering what this really awkward interchange is going to be. And so my exchange with this girl, and I'm thinking, okay, well, if she's just walking on the side of the road, I'm not stopping on the highway, God. I'm like, God, I'm not stopping on the highway and yelling her out the window. That's just going to be weird. So I'm like, if she's somewhere, in my head, I'm like, if she's somewhere where I can pull in and not be on the highway, and I was like, okay, well, I'll do that. And then I made a point in my mind to say, you know what, I'm only going to go so far. I'm only going to go down to the gas station by the high school. If I don't see her, I tried, right? Felt good about that. So I'm driving down, don't see her. I'm like, She gone. Sorry, God. I tried. And I'll be doggone if right when I thought that, she did come out of the nursing home. Like she had made a trip through the nursing home parking lot. I was like, oh man, I missed her. I could have pulled in the parking lot. Sorry, God. And then I kid you not, she walked literally straight across the street from the nursing home and into that little circle area by the reservoir, where you turn around, the little boat ramp right there. And I was like, are you kidding me? And so I'm like, yeah, got it. So I'd bump by it. So I go and I turn around and so it was perfect. I pulled in a little circle. She came right up on my driver's side and I rolled down the window, not like this. And I'm like, hey, listen, not a stalker. No, we had that little eye contact thing earlier, but I was like, listen, I know this is super awkward. I know this is random. I don't even know if you're here. If you're here, I'm glad you came. But I just felt God say, hey, go invite that girl to church. So I roll down the window and I'm like, look, this is so incredibly random. Introduced myself, said, hey, I'm pastor of the church up here. I don't know why. Just a test for me, maybe. I don't know. I said, but I just wanted you to invite to join our church. Come visit our church sometime if you're ever interested. We have services at 9/11. She kind of laughed a little and was like, hey, thank you. I was like, no problem. I'm rolling away. It was super uncomfortable. And I don't know what God will do with that. But the fact of the matter is, if we are going to be disciples of Jesus Christ, there are people everywhere. Everywhere. It's just a matter of the decision. Are you going to move into the uncomfortable? Because I could have easily talked myself out of that. At some point in time, we're going to have to embrace the uncomfortable. And so what is that? What is the uncomfortable? And I got to thinking about that this week. I'm like, what's the uncomfortable? You know what? In just a few weeks, we're gonna celebrate Easter. You want to know something that's really uncomfortable? A Roman cross. Pretty uncomfortable. Jesus said in Matthew 16:24, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must turn from your selfish ways, take up your cross, and follow me. Another version says, you must give up your own way, take up your cross, and follow me. And isn't it interesting that Jesus used that comparison? And the fact of the matter is, he wrote that, this was in Matthew 16. He hadn't been to the cross. He just knew what was coming. Do your research on Roman crucifixion. Not a good time. He knew what was coming. I mean, I dreaded book reports in high school. I can't imagine facing crucifixion and running toward that. But you know why he did? Because beyond the cross, he saw you. And he saw me. And he was willing to face the uncomfortable for somebody else. The question is, are we? Are we willing to face the uncomfortable? I don't know what that is for you. It could be the uncomfortable truth about your life. Sometimes I preach things and people think, well, I think that's old-fashioned and I think I can make up my own rules. And they get mad and they leave. It's uncomfortable truth. We can't make up our own truth. It's right here. Is it uncomfortable love? Is it people? We're going to talk about that. Whatever that uncomfortable is in your life, whatever is your cross, Jesus told us to pick it up. Take up your cross and follow me. So if you call yourself a follower of Jesus, if you call yourself a Christian this morning, You call yourself a follower of Christ. He's asking you to pick up your cross. I think we've all felt really uncomfortable at some point in time in our life or in some kind of situation. And maybe some of you are here this morning and you're uncomfortable being here. You know, it's just like, I don't love church, and I don't love sitting here, and I don't love this message. You're uncomfortable. But I think there are others of you in here this morning that have moved into that uncomfortable, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've taken a step of faith in your finances. You've taken a step of faith to take on foster children, and you've made some kind of decision that has pushed you a little bit into the uncomfortable, and God is growing you in that process. There are people in our congregation this morning that are doing that, and they're right in the middle of that. And let me just tell you something. It's painful. We have foster families that are trying to take care for the sake of somebody else. It's painful. And some of you are embracing the uncomfortable, and God is giving you the strength. And here's the thing. When Jesus left, he said, I'm going to send another comforter for you. We can be in uncomfortable situations and be perfect peace because we are right in where God wants us to be. Philippians 4:13. Somebody's probably got a tattoo here today. It says, for I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. Because when we place our trust and faith in him, it gives us the strength to move into the uncomfortable. It gives you the strength to face your cross. Is it fun? No. Jesus prayed that the cup would be taken from him. In fact, he sweat blood. He was so stressed over it. But we like things to be comfortable, don't we? Here's the thing. One question. I'm going to hurry. Not done. Let me ask you a question. When's the last time you felt uncomfortable? You're like, right now. Woo. When's the last time you really felt in an uncomfortable position? And it can be a number of different ways. It can be physically, emotionally, relationally, spiritually. When's the last time you allowed yourself to be really uncomfortable? To do something different, to tackle something that you're ill-equipped for, to push you out of your comfort zone. When is the last time that you have been incredibly uncomfortable in your spiritual walk with Christ? I read a quote this week that says, show me the last time you were uncomfortable, and I will show you the last time that you grew. Because with growth always comes pain. You experienced it in your adolescence. You had growing pains, right? They're called growing pains for a reason. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how long you've been a Christian or even if you are a Christian. Those of you who are experiencing growth, I would guess, are experiencing a little bit of pain and uncomfortableness. You know, when I was a kid, I absolutely loved to swim. My dad was a pastor, and back then rules were big, important, and we couldn't swim with girls, and so I never got to go to the city pool when I was a kid. You know, it was just off limits. And so we had to go, and the church rented the pool and that type of thing, and swim with my other dude friends. And so that's what we did. We'd get to go to the lake and maybe, wade out in the mud up to your ankles, and that was good fun, push moss out of the way. I was already swimming, but I loved it. I loved to swim. I loved being at the pool, and I loved, being able to, I wasn't really great at it as a kid, but I remember the moment when I actually learned how to swim. Do you remember that? And you could move from the shallow end of the pool and go off the diving board. It's a big deal. It's fun. It's a little scary because I remember I'd dive off the diving board just like everything I could do to get to the side of the pool. But I got better and I got stronger. And, we see that. Kids are a perfect example of that. We see them mature. They start out, drinking out of a bottle and pooping their pants and doing what little kids do. And then eventually they grow out of that, right? And they move into adults, and we mature as people. And it's a little bit harder to see in church, and it's a little bit harder to see with Christian people because, if somebody walked in here, like 20-year-old walked in here with a diaper and a baby bottle, we'd be like, that's weird, But some of us, spiritually, are still sucking on a bottle and pooping our pants. I don't know if that's kosher to say that, but some of us haven't moved out of the shallow end, and it's because you can't handle a little uncomfortableness. and you're always going to be in the shallow end. You can't handle the uncomfortable truth. You can't handle the uncomfortable calling on your life. You can't deal with uncomfortable people, and you're always going to be in the shallow end. Life is meant to be uncomfortable. Woo, that's a powerful, encouraging message, right? Here's the thing I want you to know. Regardless of that comfort, Jesus will give us the strength to accomplish what we need to accomplish. He will never leave us or forsake us. Romans 8:18 says, For what we suffer now is nothing compared to the glory that he will reveal to us later. Jesus said, I have told you this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows. But he says, take heart. He says it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. I'm going to ask you to do difficult things. In fact, he told the disciples, I'm leading you out like sheep to the slaughter. Woo, thanks, Jesus. But he said, I have told you this, that your heart may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart, because I have overcome the world. I'm telling you, if you move toward the uncomfortable, you can trust him. I promise you. You can trust him. He's never going to leave you there. He won't waste your pain. Is it going to hurt? Yeah. Are you going to grow? Absolutely. And I don't know about you, but man, I crave that. I've got this weird, unique relationship with church. It's been part of my life forever. I just want more than church. I want more than that out of this life. I want more than that from my relationship with Jesus Christ. He wants more for you. You want to live an exciting, thrilling life? Step into the uncomfortable. It's exhilarating. Is it scary? Absolutely. Make you nervous? Yes. Make you uncomfortable? For sure. But you'll never experience Christ on a level like that until you do. I'm going to ask you to stand this morning. Been around church a lot in my life, and a lot of good and some bad, and mostly good. Here's the thing. I know I've went a little long today, but I've been in moments like this right here. Where you are right now. This is a moment. This is a moment for you to step into the uncomfortable. If you want it. These altars are here, and I'd invite you. If you're I don't know where you're at. People watching at home, I don't know where you're at. But don't waste this moment. There's some of you here that, you know what, say, hey, I've never really made a fully committed life. I've never really fully committed my life to Christ, and I need to do that. I'm kind of interested in this and knowing more about this life of Christ and this living in this kind of fullness. Maybe you just need to come down here and say, hey, and I know it's really awkward. We used to, when I was a kid, had pews, and I would just kind of hold on to it, and the pastor would say, well, we're not leaving here until somebody comes, and you know, one of my friends would be like, okay, I'll go, and I'm like, okay, I'll get it next time, you know. But I'm not going to do that. We're not going to play 3 verses of Just As I Am and beg you guys to come and pray. Really, your decision. Some of you need to take that first step, and some of you need to step back and go, you know what? I've gotten really comfortable here on my couch. I've gotten comfortable just being where I am, letting somebody else serve Crave, and letting somebody else serve Youth Loop, and letting somebody else serve, and I'm old, and I'm telling you, we make all kinds of excuses. I don't care how old you are. Maybe you need to make a decision this morning to say, hey, you know what? I need to step back into the uncomfortable. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that. I'm going to everybody bow their heads. And if you want to come and pray, these altars are here. I'm going to pray for you. We'll pray, and hopefully God will start to do something. Maybe you crave it like I do. Man, I just crave something more. I ask you to make that step if you want to. Let me pray. Father, thank you so much. Thank you for this moment, Lord, that we have to step into the uncomfortable, to do things that make us nervous, to believe in something that seems so strange and foreign, to believe in something that I can't touch or feel, or to believe in this person called Jesus. And Lord, I just want to make that step this morning. Maybe it's just somebody here this morning that says, you know what, I've been in church a long time, but I just feel stale. I've gotten really, really comfortable in my relationship. And it's been a long, long time since I've really stepped into anything that's uncomfortable. Father, I just pray that maybe those people just come and just meet you here. And Lord, that this morning that this church will cease to just be a church and an address and a place that people point to on a map. But Lord, it'll be a people whose hearts are on fire. It will be a people whose hearts burn with compassion for lost people. It'll be a heart that you created us this energy and this insatiable desire to serve you and to move into the uncomfortable, invite people to church and invite people to know this Jesus that can bring so much hope and so much peace and so much forgiveness. Lord, help us to be obedient in that. Father, I just pray if there's somebody here at these altars, that those that have come and those that are watching at home and maybe are praying in their homes, Lord, that you would just meet them here. Lord, that you would do something today that will drastically and dramatically change the way they see the world, the way that they see people. It'll change the way we see the person at Walmart. It'll change the way that we see the people that we run into at the grocery store and the people that's behind the counter at the gas station. And it'll change the way that we see people walking their dog on the side of the road. Give us that kind of heart to care for people, to love people like you did. Forgive us of our weakness, Lord. Forgive us of our natural bend to be comfortable and make our lives more comfortable and just settle in that. It's so easy to do that, Jesus. But Jesus, I just pray that you would make us uncomfortable as a church. Help us to move into that area of uncomfort. And Lord, we know that you will meet us here. We know that you are faithful. We know that your promise is true and that you'll give us hope and that you will never leave us and never forsake us, Lord, and that we'll enter in that uncomfort with peace to know that you are in control and you have overcome this world. Thank you for your presence here this morning, Jesus. Thank you for these that are here praying. And Lord, I just pray that they would continue to do so. Lord, as we leave this place, help us not to leave your presence. And we love you this morning and we give all you the praise and glory. Amen. Listen, thanks for being here. I know it's a challenging message, but I just challenge you this week to move into the uncomfortable. We're going to continue to talk about more. Thank you for being here. If you want a place to serve,